Guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be going over how to make a checkered blanket. I'm going to go over the cast on, how to cross your yarn successfully, how to change color when starting your next set of squares, and lastly how to cast off. I have two contrasting colors. Hopefully it's very contrast on your screen. It's mulberried over and ivory from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to take my first color, which is going to be the ivory, and I'm going to make a slip knot. If you guys need a slow down tutorial on how to do the basics on the loom, then I do have a video for that, and I'll put it in the cards up here in the corner. Okay, so you put your slip knot on, and then you take your working yarn and stick it up underneath your slip knot like this, and this helps with the loose stitch that was originally over here in my other cast on method. And then we're going to cast on 5 stitches. It's 2, 3, 4, and now we're going to just put this loop up here, and instead of having our yarn here, we're going to put it over here. Now we're going to grab in our new color, and on the ending loop we're going to keep a tail about this big, and we're going to stick the edge of it right here up and under and make a loop. Okay, and now we're just continuing on for our cast on. So another 5. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and just taking our ending loop and putting it on here. Keep your yarn on the outside, and now we're going to grab our next color, just folding my yarn like this, and then I'm going to stick it up and under this loop again and make a new loop and continue casting on for the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and lastly 5, and that is our cast on. Don't worry about the ends, because when we're all done with the blanket, we're going to tighten them up as they should be and then burn them in the back, and then you won't see them. Okay, so we have all of our stitches cast on, and now we're going to go ahead and begin knitting. I always skip my first stitch, so that's why when I ended this row I have my yarn in between the last 2 pegs. I go over this in detail in other videos, so please be sure to check those out. And now I'm just going to knit the next 4 stitches. Okay, so I've made it to the next color, and here is one of the most important parts of the video: how to do the crossover. If you simply cross over the left over the right, it's not going to work and you're going to get a color jog. Okay, it might be different when you're doing regular finger knitting, but on the loom you need to cross over going from right to left if you're working that way. Okay, the reason is you want the last crossover to be in the main color that you're going to be working with. So if I cross it over this way, the last crossover is white, and we don't want that, because when we start knitting, now we have this white jog. But when we cross it over this way, the pink covers up over the white. Okay, so that's how you'll be crossing over. Before we do cross over, every single time I want you to pull on your stitches right here and just make sure that nothing is tied up or bogged down at all. That way you get a nice clean crossover. Okay, so if I'm working from the right to the left, I'm going to take the yarn that's on the right and cross it over the one on the left. Okay, let's do it. So taking the one on the right, crossing it over the one on the left, and then taking this one and crossing it over again because I need it to work down the row. Okay, I don't always switch my yarns They're a big mess over here, but that's okay because when we come back this way, we're going to be swapping them back over and they won't be tied up anymore. Okay? And now I'm going to knit the next 5 stitches in pink. Okay, so we've made it to our next place to do a color change. And as I said before, we're going to take the yarn that's on the right and cross it over the left because that's the way that I'm working. And we want the final crossover to be in the color that you need to use next, okay? So again, you need to pull down right here and make sure that nothing is, you know, nothing is bunched up right here. And then we're going to take the one on the right, cross it over the one on the left, and then do it again because we need to be using the ivory. Okay? And now we're going to knit. My last stitch, and as I do so, putting the yarn in between the last 2 pegs. Okay, so now we have a jumbled mess right here, and now we're going to knit the next 4 down because we're skipping this first stitch. Okay, so now because we're working from the left to the right, we need to cross over the one on the left over the one on the right. Remember to pull your stitches down right here. Make sure these 2 stitches are tight. And then cross over the one on the left, over the one on the right, and then cross over once again because we need to be working with the pink yarn. Right, we've made it to our next color change. Also, you can see that these 2 yarns are no longer crossed over each other, and that'll happen every single time if you're crossing the correct way. Okay? And now we're here. I'm pulling down to make sure that nothing is bunched up, tightening these 2 stitches, and I'm going to cross over the one on the left, over the one on the right, and then cross again, making sure that that is tight. And then I'm going to knit down the row. Now I'm going to knit back down, and I'm going to fast forward so you guys can watch me. We casted on 5, and I'm going to go ahead and do 8 rows total. I'll show you guys how to cut your yarn, add in the new color, and do your next set of checker squares. Okay, I'll meet you back. Okay, so we have made it to the second to last stitch on our 8th row, and I'm going to go ahead and change color. To change color, even when you're doing checkers, you change color on the second to last stitch. So you're just going to undo your stitch here, grabbing it out of the where it's coming out of the back of the stitch, holding on to it, and then that's where you'll add in your new color. In my last video, I go over color changes in detail. So if you need that, I'll also put that in the corner. Okay, so I'm grabbing another pink color because now we're going to have 2 pinks and 1 ivory. Okay, so I'm just grabbing my next ball of yarn, and I'll just be burning in this new color. Okay, and then I'm going to knit my second to last stitch, and then now the color change will happen here. And then I will knit back down. So we have our pink color here, but now we need it to be white. So you're going to want to try to cut it as close as possible back here where it's coming up out. Not so close that it's going to go underneath and you're going to ruin your whole blanket, but probably like leave that much space. More if you think that you need it, okay? And now I'm going to add in my ivory. Ooh. And now this will be moved down here to the side. Okay, so now we're going to be doing our crossovers again. And the same thing applies. We're just going to be pulling down our stitches, making sure nothing's bunched up. And then we're working from left to right. So we're going to be crossing the yarn that's on the left over the one on the right. And then once again, cross them. And now we'll knit our next 5 stitches in the new color. Okay, so this is our new yarn. This is our old, the one that we need to cut. And I'll be leaving about the same amount of space. It's about 1/2 inch, maybe a little less. And adding in our new ball. And then you want to give it a tug. Okay, so I'm just going to keep working my way down until I do another 8 rows, and then I will show you guys how to cast off. Okay guys, so I am done with my last row. I just knit my last stitch. And now I'm going to show you how to cast off. Okay? So instead of skipping your first stitch, you're going to knit it, and then it's not going to go back on the loom. And then you're going to take your second stitch and you're going to knit it, and you're going to make this first stitch over here eat the second stitch like that. Okay? You want these loops to be bigger than what you would usually make them. And then see how tall this one is? I'm going to knit this one and make it the same height. Okay? And I know that's kind of big, but it has to eat the next stitch, so it has to be a little bit big, okay? And then we're going to take this one and make it eat it again, okay? And then we're going to go to the next, coming up to the same height, and eating the next one. All right. Now you have 2 options for your cast off here, and I'm going to show you what most people do, okay? They just keep going in the same color, and then you end up getting a color jog. Okay, so they knit it like this, and then take the white and knit this one, and then do this. And now you can see that there's a color jog, but we just work so hard to keep our lines perfect that that's not what I want to do, okay? So I'm going to undo what I just did, and this one here. And I'm going to take this white one, and I'm going to knit the last stitch of the pink with the white, okay? And then I'm going to make the pink one eat the white one. All right, and now I'm going to take the white and knit the next stitch, and take this white one and make it eat that one. Now there is still a color jog, about 1/2 inch, but it's less noticeable than this entire stitch being pink. So that's the way I prefer to do it, and then I'll show you how to do it one last time. Just remember that you're trying to keep your cast off stitches the same as your cast on stitches. So you want it to be a bit looser, okay? Otherwise you're going to get some tucking and some pulling in your blanket. Okay, so I've made it again to the same spot. Instead of using the white on the white, I'm going to use the pink on the white, okay? And then use the pink once again to knit the pink, like so. Just working my way to the last stitch. And then I'm going to get my scissors and cut. And then I'm going to take my yarn and pull it up and through that loop and tighten it. Okay, let's have a look at the back side. This is what your back should be looking like. You have your tails still coming out, these tails down here, which we have not woven in yet. Now you're just going to cut these and weave them in and burn them into the sides. And the same for the bottoms. That's how simple it is. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I hope that you found this tutorial useful, and I would love to see any of your checkered blankets that you guys make. If you have any questions, make sure you leave a comment and let me know. And if you did like this tutorial, then please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see more. Alright, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!